Before you can lead anybody else, you have to be willing to lead yourself. That's the foundation. That's where it all begins. Because if you don't have the discipline, the structure, the integrity to lead times you asterisk, how can you ever expect to lead someone else with confidence, with consistency, with conviction? Too many people want the title before they embrace the responsibility. They want the position before they practice the principle. But leadership isn't a position, it's a decision. It's a daily commitment to hold yourself accountable when nobody's watching. Leading yourself means setting a standard and living by it even when it's uncomfortable. It means you don't wait for motivation to strike, because motivation fades. You move with purpose. You move with vision. You move with the understanding that the small things, the private battles, the unseen sacrifices, those are the things that shape character. Anybody can talk about goals when life feels good, but real self-leadership shows up when life hits back. When plans fall apart, when people doubt you, when you feel like giving up, but you still choose to show up, that's leadership. See, you can't lead from a place of confusion. You can't inspire others to believe if you haven't first learned how to believe in yourself. You can't guide people through storms if you've never built the endurance to stand in one. That's why it's not about perfection, it's about progression. It's about growth. Every day you wake up with a choice. Do you control your emotions or do your emotions control you? Do you guide your habits or do your habits guide you? Self-leadership is about being honest enough to face your weaknesses and disciplined enough to turn them into strengths. Most people lose themselves because they never learn to manage themselves. They let distractions dictate their day, they let opinions shape their identity, and they let fear control their decisions. But when you lead yourself, you set your own direction. You say, this is who I am and this is where I'm going, and you move with intentionality. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. It's knowing that if you don't define your path, someone else will. Leading yourself requires a level of self-respect that says, I won't compromise my values just to be accepted. I won't lower my standards just to fit in. There's a quiet power in self-leadership because it's not loud, it's not flashy. It's built in the dark, in the moments nobody celebrates. It's the late nights when you're studying, the early mornings when you're working, the lonely hours when you're building something that only you can see. That's where confidence is earned. You don't get confidence from compliments, you get it from consistency. You get it from keeping promises to yourself. You get it from choosing discipline over desire, focus over comfort, growth over ease. When you lead yourself, you stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for perfect timing. You stop blaming your past because you understand that leadership isn't about circumstances, it's about choices. You might not control everything that happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. You can control your effort, your attitude, your mindset. That's self-leadership. It's the ability to say, no matter what comes my way, I'll stay true to my purpose. And when you master that, when you learn how to guide your own steps, others will naturally follow. Because people don't follow titles, they follow examples. They follow energy. They follow authenticity. The greatest leaders aren't the ones shouting directions, they're the ones quietly living them out. They're the ones who embody what they expect from others. That's the power of self-leadership. It starts within. And it radiates outward. It's not about being in charge, it's about taking charge of yourself, your purpose, your path. Distractions are silent thieves. They don't always come crashing into your life, they slip in quietly, stealing your focus, your time, your energy, and before you know it, you've drifted miles away from the direction you were supposed to go. Every day, life is full of noise, notifications, opinions, temptations, and the constant pressure to do everything at once. But the truth is, you can't move forward if your mind is scattered. You can't build something meaningful if you keep pausing to chase everything that glitters. Distractions will always disguise themselves as opportunities, but not everything that looks good is good for you. Direction demands discipline. It requires you to look at the things around you and ask, is this helping me grow? Or is it keeping me stuck? Because every moment you give to a distraction is a moment you take away from your destiny. It's easy to get caught up in the chaos scrolling for hours, comparing your journey to someone else's, chasing validation instead of vision. But that's how you lose momentum. That's how you lose yourself. The mind is like a muscle, it grows where you focus your attention. If you feed it with purpose, it gets stronger. If you feed it with distraction, it weakens your ability to move with clarity. The hardest part about staying focused isn't knowing what to do, it's saying no to everything that doesn't align with where you're going. Because the world will always try to pull you off course. It will try to convince you that you're missing out, that you're not enough, that you should take the easy route. But direction doesn't come from convenience, it comes from commitment. It's about having the courage to shut out the noise and stay locked in on what truly matters. Distraction is easy, it feels good for a moment. Direction is hard, it demands sacrifice. But the reward of focus is peace, progress, and purpose. Every person who ever achieved something great had to battle distractions. They had to learn how to manage their mind when everything around them tried to break their concentration. Distraction doesn't always look negative. Sometimes it's comfort. Sometimes it's people who love you but don't understand your vision. Sometimes it's opportunities that seem right but take you away from what's truly yours. That's why self-awareness is crucial. You have to know what season you're in, what goals you're chasing, and what deserves your energy. If not, you'll spend your life reacting instead of creating, surviving instead of leading. There's a reason why focused people often seem distant. They're not being rude, they're being intentional. They've learned that saying yes to everything means saying no to growth. They understand that every minute wasted is a seed that could have been planted in their purpose. When you truly find direction, you start protecting your peace. You start guarding your attention like it's treasure, because it is. You realize that focus isn't just about what you give your attention to. It's also about what you refuse to let in. You can't build a legacy with divided attention. You can't move with purpose when your eyes are always on what everyone else is doing. You can't discover your potential if you're constantly distracted by comfort, fear, or noise. The direction of your life depends on the discipline of your focus. You can't chase clarity and chaos at the same time. Every distraction, no matter how small, pulls you one step away from the person you're becoming. And when you lose focus long enough, you start confusing movement with progress. You start mistaking busyness for purpose. That's the trap, thinking that activity equals advancement. It doesn't. Only intentional direction does. When you start leading yourself, when you start aligning your energy with your vision, distractions lose their power, because now you're not driven by what's urgent, you're driven by what's important. You learn to silence the noise, to protect your focus, to keep your eyes fixed on the path ahead. Because in a world full of distractions, focus has become a rare strength. And the ones who master it, the ones who can keep their direction no matter what's happening around them, those are the ones who rise, the ones who lead, the ones who win. Responsibility is the bridge between who you are and who you're trying to become. It's the moment you stop pointing fingers and start looking in the mirror. It's easy to make excuses, it's hard to own your choices. But the truth is, you can't change what you don't take responsibility for. You can't grow if you keep blaming the world for what you're not willing to face. Responsibility is not about guilt, it's about power. It's saying, my life might not be perfect, but it's mine. My choices, my effort, my attitude, that's on me. When you live that way, you take back control. When you start owning your story, you stop waiting for someone else to fix it. Excuses are comfortable because they let you off the hook. They protect your pride, but they also paralyze your progress. Every excuse you make builds a wall between you and your potential. You start convincing yourself that you can't because of circumstances, because of people, because of timing. But what if it's not about what's around you, it's about what's within you? The people who rise aren't the ones with perfect conditions, they're the ones who refuse to let excuses dictate their outcome. They look at obstacles and say, I'll find a way. They understand that life doesn't owe them anything, so they stop complaining and start creating. Taking responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault, it means you recognize your role and how you respond. You may not control what happens, but you control your reaction. You control how long you stay stuck. You control whether you use the pain to grow or the pain to justify quitting. Excuses might make you feel safe for a moment, but responsibility sets you free. Because when you take ownership, you gain the power to change the outcome. When you blame others, you hand that power away. You let the world decide how far you go. But when you say, it's on me, that's when transformation begins. Responsibility is about being honest enough to say, I didn't give my best, and disciplined enough to do better next time. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it, because your word matters. It's about finishing what you start, not because it's easy, but because it's right. The people who live with purpose understand that responsibility is not a burden, it's a privilege. It means you're trusted with something. It means you're capable of more. But if you keep making excuses, you'll never experience that growth. Excuses keep you in the same place, living the same story, repeating the same patterns, waiting for something to change while doing nothing to change it. We live in a world where it's easy to shift blame. It's easy to point at your past, your environment, your circumstances. But responsibility demands maturity. It demands that you rise above your conditions and decide that nothing will define you except your effort. You can't lead your life if you're always looking for reasons why you can't. You can't walk in purpose if you keep dragging excuses behind you. At some point, you have to say, enough. You have to decide that accountability will be your foundation. Because accountability produces results, while excuses only produce regret. There's something powerful about a person who says, I'll take ownership. That person earns respect, not because they're perfect, but because they're real. They face life head on. They don't run from responsibility, they embrace it. They know that leadership begins with accountability. The more you own your life, the more power you have to change it. The moment you stop making excuses, the world opens up. Opportunities appear because your focus shifts from what's wrong to what's possible. Excuses are heavy, they weigh you down. Responsibility lifts you up. It gives you clarity, direction, and peace. Because once you stop running from accountability, you start running toward your purpose. Motivation feels good, but it doesn't last. It's like a spark, it lights you up for a moment, but if you don't feed it with consistency, it fades into nothing. Too many people wait for motivation to show up before they act. They say, I'll start when I feel ready. I'll work hard when I feel inspired. But the truth is, if you only move when you feel like it, you'll never build anything lasting. Success doesn't belong to the most motivated. It belongs to the most consistent. The ones who show up when they're tired, when they're uninspired, when no one's watching. That's where real growth begins. Consistency is the muscle that carries you through the days when motivation disappears. It's the quiet discipline that says, I made a promise to myself and I'm going to keep it. It's not glamorous, it's not always exciting, but it's powerful. Because every day you stay consistent, you're building something inside you: resilience, strength, integrity. Motivation gets you started. Consistency keeps you going. Anybody can be excited on day 1, but who are you on day 100 when nobody's cheering? Who are you when the results are slow, when the journey feels long, when the progress is invisible? That's when consistency separates the talkers from the doers. Motivation depends on feelings, but consistency depends on decisions. Feelings change, they rise and fall like the tide. But decisions, when made with conviction, hold steady. That's why people who rely on motivation burn out fast. They're chasing a feeling instead of building a habit. The people who win in life have learned how to turn discipline into a lifestyle. They don't need to be hyped up, they move out of commitment. They know that small steps, done daily, create massive change over time. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about showing up with effort, even when your energy is low, even when your circumstances aren't ideal. Consistency isn't easy. It demands sacrifice. It demands saying no to distractions, no to excuses, no to comfort. It asks you to show up when you'd rather rest, to push through when your mind whispers, quit. But every time you choose consistency, you strengthen your character. You teach yourself that you can be trusted, that your word means something. That's how confidence is built, not from talking big, but from following through. Consistency turns dreams into discipline and goals into habits. It's the quiet work that compounds in the background while others wait for inspiration to strike. There's something powerful about a person who shows up every day without applause. Someone who wakes up early to grind, who studies, practices, trains, and builds when nobody's paying attention. That kind of person doesn't need motivation, they've built momentum. They've learned that the hardest part is not starting, it's staying. And once you learn how to stay, everything changes. You stop chasing temporary highs and start creating lasting habits. You stop waiting for the right time and start using the time you have. Consistency teaches you patience, endurance, and humility. It reminds you that greatness is not achieved overnight, it's earned day by day. When you commit to consistency, you stop negotiating with your goals. You stop saying maybe tomorrow and start saying now. You realize that every repetition, every small action, every disciplined choice is an investment in your future self. Motivation might get you moving, but consistency is what keeps the fire alive. It's the grind that builds greatness, the effort that compounds into excellence. Because at the end of the day, the difference between those who dream and those who achieve is simple. One waits for the feeling, the other builds through faith. Consistency wins when motivation runs out, And that's what separates those who wish for success from those who work for it. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers, but most people run from it instead of learning from it. They see pain as punishment instead of preparation, as something to escape instead of something to embrace. But pain isn't meant to hold you captive, it's meant to shape you. It's the process that refines your character, deepens your strength, and reveals what you're truly made of. Every time you go through something that hurts, you have a choice. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can stay trapped in it, or you can grow through it. Pain doesn't come to stop you, it comes to strengthen you. When life hits hard, when everything falls apart, when the plan doesn't go the way you imagine, it's easy to ask, why me? But the real question is, what is this teaching me? Because every hardship carries a lesson. Every loss carries wisdom. Every wound carries a message if you're willing to listen. Pain reveals truth in a way comfort never can. Comfort hides your weaknesses. Pain exposes them. Comfort lets you settle. Pain pushes you to stretch. The moments that hurt the most often become the moments that define who you are. They teach you humility, patience, endurance, empathy. They teach you that growth doesn't come from what's easy, it comes from what's earned. People often try to avoid pain by playing it safe, by staying in familiar places, by refusing to take risks. But what they don't realize is that avoiding pain creates a different kind of suffering, the suffering of regret, of stagnation, of never becoming who you could have been. Pain isn't the enemy, comfort is. Because pain moves you forward. Pain reminds you that you're alive, that you're still in the fight. Every scar you carry is proof that you made it through something that tried to break you. And sometimes that's the only evidence you need to keep going. Pain will test you. It will question your beliefs, your patience, your resilience. It will strip away the illusion of control and show you what truly matters. But if you lean into it, if you face it with faith and courage, you come out wiser, tougher, and more grounded. Pain has a way of purifying your purpose. It burns away distractions. It humbles your ego. It forces you to see what's real. It's not about enjoying the pain, it's about understanding its purpose. Because there's a difference between being hurt and being held hostage by the hurt. One transforms you, the other traps you. You can't go through life expecting to avoid pain. It's part of the process. It's part of becoming who you're supposed to be. The people who rise the highest are often the ones who fall in the hardest, but they refuse to stay down. They didn't let pain define them, they used it to refine them. They took their struggles and turned them into stories, their wounds and turned them into wisdom. Pain taught them perseverance, discipline, and gratitude. It showed them that strength isn't built in moments of ease, it's forged in moments of endurance. Pain can either be your prison or your platform. If you keep replaying what went wrong, if you hold on to the bitterness, if you let the hurt control your perspective, then you'll stay stuck. But if you choose to learn, to rise, to let that pain push you toward purpose, then you'll find freedom. You'll see that everything you went through was preparing you for something greater. Pain doesn't last forever, but the lessons it leaves behind do. And when you finally look back, you realize it wasn't there to punish you, it was there to prepare you. It was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to teach you how to rise. Purpose is the compass that keeps your life from drifting. It's the force that gives direction when everything around you feels uncertain. Without purpose, you move through life reacting instead of leading, chasing instead of choosing, existing instead of living. Purpose is not something you find by accident. It's something you uncover through reflection, struggle, and growth. It's the quiet conviction that says, this is what I'm meant to do, even when the road gets hard. When you know your purpose, every decision gains clarity. You stop wasting energy on distractions because you understand that not everything deserves your attention. Purpose simplifies life by reminding you what truly matters. When you don't have a clear purpose, you become vulnerable to everything. That looks appealing but leads nowhere. You start chasing other people's dreams, living by their expectations, trying to meet their standards. That's how people lose themselves. They trade authenticity for approval, direction for distraction. But when you're grounded in purpose, you stop being swayed by trends, opinions, and pressure. You don't move with the crowd, you move with conviction. Purpose gives you an anchor when life gets unpredictable. It doesn't remove challenges, but it gives you a reason to endure them. It's the why behind your work, the meaning behind your effort, the fuel behind your perseverance. Purpose doesn't always shout, it whispers. Sometimes it shows up as a burden you can't ignore, a calling that tugs at your heart, a vision that won't let you rest until you move toward it. It's not about fame or fortune, it's about fulfillment. Purpose makes struggle meaningful. It transforms pain into preparation, obstacles into opportunities. When you know your purpose, failure doesn't destroy you, it develops you. You start to see setbacks differently. They're not signs to quit, they're signs to adjust. Purpose gives you the perspective to see beyond the moment, to keep walking even when the path isn't clear. Many people spend their lives searching for purpose outside of themselves, waiting for something to happen that gives them direction. But purpose starts within. It's in your gifts, your passions, your experiences, and even your wounds. Sometimes the very things that broke you become the things you're meant to use to help others. That's the power of purpose. It turns pain into impact. It gives meaning to the things that once made you question your worth. It connects every season of your life into one story that only you can tell. When you move with purpose, every step, no matter how small, becomes intentional. Purpose also demands responsibility. Once you know why you're here, you can't pretend. You don't. You can't keep living aimlessly when you've seen what you're capable of. Purpose calls you to a higher standard. It pushes you to stay disciplined, to keep growing, to stay true to your values, even when it's inconvenient. It's not about perfection, it's about alignment. When your actions align with your purpose, you live with peace. You might still face storms, but your compass keeps you steady. You know that temporary discomfort is worth it because you're walking towards something eternal. The most powerful people in the world aren't the ones with the most resources, they're the ones with the most reason. Purpose gives you that reason. It gives you endurance when motivation runs out. It gives you hope when everything feels heavy. It reminds you that your life isn't random, that every experience, every challenge, every victory is leading somewhere. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to keep following your compass. Purpose doesn't promise an easy journey, but it promises a meaningful one. And once you find it, once you live by it, you realize that direction matters more than speed and significance matters more than success.